The single most important part of deck building is your legend and your chosen champion. They can completely make or break your deck, but there are 24 champions without legends in the game so far, 4 in each domain. So today we're going to be looking at all of them, and I'm going to take a guess at what their legend might be. And up front, we have a ton of very aggressive and angry champions in this set, so I'm going to try to avoid using Fury, but it is the easy choice a lot of the time. Let's start with the man himself, Draven. Our current Draven is a Fury unit that gets extra might for each point that you have. So let's start with domains. I think Draven inherently can't be in Mind, Calm, or Order, which leaves Body and Chaos, both of which are pretty reasonable. If I had to guess, I'll probably lean towards Chaos though. Draven is a high-risk, high-reward showboater, and Chaos is kind of the name of the game. His LOR counterpart made spinning axes that would give 1 power in exchange for discarding a card, and that discard mechanic is pretty Chaos-coded in Riftbound. And actually, that brings me to the legend card, Draven, Glorious Executioner. This is a Fury and Chaos legend with the passive ability to give a unit you control 1 might whenever you discard a card. And I'd also give him the activated ability to pay 1 energy and exhaust him to discard 1 and draw 1. From there we can go on to the man literally too angry to die with Tryndamere. This is a massive Fury unit who gets you an extra point if you conquer a battlefield with him and deal 5 excess damage or more. Tryndamere as a legend would definitely be Fury and Body, and I think that he'd kind of be in line with Volibear. However, I do want to make him a bit distinct. I think I definitely want Tryndamere to work around either Mighty or stopping a unit from dying. And I think the card that we already have sort of fits the Might idea fine already, but we are missing that Undying theme. So this is Tryndamere, Barbarian King, a Fury and Body legend with the ability that once per turn when a Mighty unit dies while attacking, you can pay 1 power to heal it and recall it to your base exhausted. Continuing through our Fury champions, and we have Vayne. Our current Vayne is a 4-drop with 2 might, assault 3, and comes in readied if your opponent controls a battlefield. Then, when she conquers, you can pay 1 to return her to hand. I think this is such a cool interpretation of her League kit. In-game, her passive lets her move faster towards enemy champions, and if she is ulting, she can turn invisible when she tumbles, which is represented by returning her to hand and leaving danger in Riftbound. But there are part of Vayne's kit that we don't really see here. One ability is to push an opponent back, and if they hit the wall you can stun them, but the more iconic ability is definitely Silver Bolts. If she hits an enemy 3 times, she deals a burst of true damage. And I would probably want to lean into that Silver Bolts theme a little bit with her legend, while her other champion card might be able to lean into stunning a bit. And that fits because I want Vayne the Night Hunter to be a Fury and Order legend. As for her ability, I think I'm going to take a bit of a niche one here. On your 3rd attack of the turn, give a friendly unit who attacks alone 4 might. Notably, our original Vayne can return to hand, be played again, and trigger this through being ready, as long as you have 1 other unit who you can swing in and maybe sacrifice. Plus, if we have red units like Darius who also ready themselves to attack multiple times, this is a little bit easier. I understand this isn't the easiest ability to proc, but I think that it could make for some interesting deck building. Do you want to know what else is interesting though? This channel. I post at least 5 times a week about Riftbound, and I think you'll definitely enjoy the videos, so scroll down, make sure you're subscribed, and if you're enjoying, you can even leave a like, support me on Patreon, or join the Discord server that's listed in the description, where you can give input on our videos like this in the future. Our final Fury champion, though, is Vi. As it stands, Vi is a 2-drop with 3 might and ganking that can recycle a card from your trash to gain 1 more might. And I think this idea of Vi taking some time to wind up and throw a massive punch is awesome, and the movement ability is also pretty great in line with her character. But this is the first one that I'm really torn on domains about. For the Vi Piltover Enforcer legend, you could go Body or Order. Body obviously works because her whole thing is being a brawler and a fighter, but Order could also be more in line with her role as an enforcer, keeping the peace of Piltover. I think I'm leaning Body though. I want the Vi legend to be able to force fights between your units and your opponents. And I think that giving it a theme kind of similar to Caitlyn's current Riftbound card could be cute. As such, I think pay 3 energy and exhaust your legend, and you can select 1 friendly unit at a battlefield to fight a unit at a battlefield controlled by an opponent, aka they will deal damage to each other. This is also pretty in line with Vi's ultimate as well, picking someone out and starting a brawl with them. Notably, this is a bit expensive, but we already have this on a card, Challenge, and that only costs 2 energy and a power, so because we are saving on the power and it's in the Legend Zone, we're going to be adding some location restrictions and making it a bit more energy intensive. On to the Calm domain with the boy himself, Blitzcrank. Our current Blitz is a 5 might unit with tank for 5 energy. If you play him to a battlefield, you can pull an enemy unit to his location, then if you hold with him, you have to return him to your hand. And this is kinda hard because this is Blitzcrank. When you think of his champion, you think of that hook. But what else does he do? Well, he can speed himself up for a moment before slowing himself down, he can punch an enemy into the air, he can make a massive shockwave of electricity, and he creates a shield based on his mana when his health is low. These are kinda hard to work with, so let's figure out a second domain and work from there. I think that the Mind domain makes the most sense as he is living technology. And in line with that, we have Blitzcrank, the Great Steam Golem, with pay 2 energy, exhaust Blitz, and channel a rune exhausted. I think this kind of fits the idea of Blitzcrank gaining speed at the cost of slowing himself down, and kinda leans into his passive as well. I could see this being a bit strong, so maybe pay 3, I don't know. Give me your thoughts in the comments down below. Next up is a card that I really like, but I just haven't really found a place for yet. Caitlyn is a 3 energy unit with 3 might that can exhaust herself at a battlefield to deal damage equal to her might to a unit at another battlefield. On top of that, she must be assigned combat damage last. Basically, she is sniping from a distance and her supports dive in to protect her. A legend for Kate could fit into that Mind category as she is a bit of a strategist, but I think that order makes a bit more sense as her whole thing is being a sheriff. So here we have Caitlyn, Sheriff of Piltover, with the passive ability that units can't move from the battlefield to their base with their standard move. I do want spells to still be able to move units, but I think that this ability also fits in with her Yordle snap traps in League. These hold their opponents in place, and we're kind of getting that here. On top of that, it has some level of synergy with her existing card as well, as once an opponent steps onto a battlefield, Kate can start sniping them. I was originally looking into an ability that boosted non-combat damage, but unfortunately green and yellow just don't really offer that, so I do have to just go another route here. On to Sona, another card I am a huge fan of. 4 might for 4 energy, and if Sona is at a battlefield at the end of your turn, you can ready up to 4 friendly runes. Spell slinging really fits her well, I think, and I'd probably lean into her League passive of doing something after casting 3 spells. I would also want this to be modal with different options you can choose from. As for domains, I would go with Calm and Mind. Fury, Body, and Chaos all feel super wrong here, and Order just doesn't line up either. But the defensive playstyle of blue and green I think works really well with her. Sona, Maven of Strings, has the passive ability that when you cast your 3rd spell each turn, choose one of the following: draw a card, channel a rune, or deal 2 damage to a unit at a battlefield. I think this also really fits with Sona's abilities in League, giving speed, dealing damage, and giving a shield, which is definitely the loosest connection, but drawing a card and potentially another spell to protect yourself is kind of a shield if you squint hard enough. The final Calm champion is Taric, and I'm really realizing how much I like all of the Mind champions that we have. Taric is a 4 might unit for 4 energy that has shield, tank, and gives your other units at his location shield as well. This is one of the best protectors in the game. I think Taric's legend could be either in Mind or Body, but I want to lean into Body to gain access to the buff theme. I definitely want a defensive ability as well, but it's kinda hard to go further into that theme than the card already does. But here we have Taric, Shield of Valorant. When your opponents attack a battlefield that you control, give a friendly unit a buff, and separately, buffed units you control have shield. The nice part of this is that shield stacks, so the redundancy with the existing Taric card isn't wasted, and I think keeping with that buff theme also makes sense as Taric's Bastion ability in League passively boosts the armor for an allied champion. Now, first in the Mind domain is Dr. Mundo, a legend that I cannot wait to play. And there are so many ways that this guy could go. Currently, Mundo is an 8-drop with 6 might that gains might for each card in your trash, but you do need to recycle 3 at the start of each turn. To me, this is kind of like Mundo's ult. The more health, or in this case, the more trash that you have, the harder he is to kill. Then he heals himself by putting cards back into the deck. But what else is Mundo known for? Throwing cleavers that slow people. He's got the defibrillator that sucks up health from everyone around him. He can push units back, and he goes where he pleases. These are hard to work with in a way that I like, so I'm going to lean into our original cards theme instead. To that end, we have Dr. Mundo, Madman of Zon in Mind and Chaos. And I'm going to be taking a bit of inspiration from the Jinx legend, but maybe making it a little bit better. So in your beginning phase, mill 2 cards. Then if there are 10 or more cards in your trash, draw a card. I think the number might need to be adjusted, but I want Mundo to feel like a late game value machine, and I think that this does that pretty well, while also keeping his early game fairly limited. Our next Mind champion is Ekko, a 5 might unit for 5 that can be accelerated and recycles himself when he dies to ready all of your runes. This is such a cool depiction of his ult, sending him back in time to the deck and then healing by readying your runes. I really like this theme, and I'm going to be leaning into it pretty hard here. Ekko, who shatters time, is a legend in the Mind and Fury domain, with a passive ability that says when you recycle a card, ready 1 rune. This might be a bit on the strong side. It really allows for some explosive turns, however, every time you do that, you are setting yourself back, which I think really fits the idea of Ekko retaining his injuries when he travels through time. This also gives some crazy synergy with Vi, and I'm aware of that. I just think that it should be okay overall. I don't know though. Following Ekko is the Donger, a 3 energy unit with 3 might that has all the exhaust abilities of your legends, units, and gear. So I think I would need the legend to have an exhaust ability as well, obviously. As for domains, Fury and Body are immediately out. Chaos, probably not going to cut it. And both Calm and Order are okay, but I'm going to be going with Order. Other than that, I want to give Heimerdinger something to do with gear, as his whole thing is being an inventor and a technologist. So, Heimerdinger, Revered Inventor, is a Mind and Order legend that says gear you play costs 1 energy less to a minimum of 1, and has Exhaust, give a friendly unit might equal to the number of gear in your base. And that brings us to our last Mind champion, Malzahar. The current Malz is a 4 energy unit with 3 might that can exhaust himself to kill a friendly unit or gear, and then give you 2 power that you can use to pay for your costs. So I like this idea of Malz sacrificing things to the void and then generating some kind of magic or mystical energy, right? That's pretty excellent already. However, it does come with a kind of rough expense. So let's make that a little bit easier with Malzahar, Prophet of the Void, a legend in the Mind and Chaos domains that reads the first time you cast a spell each turn, you can pay 1 energy to create a 1 might voidling token in your base. He also has Exhaust, sacrifice 3 voidlings in your base to draw a card. Obviously this is pretty similar to Viktor generating recruits, but I'm adding the condition that you need to play a spell to make them, so I'm allowing these tokens to be created on your opponent's turn. I'm also giving you a draw outlet here, however you need to bring your voidlings back to your base to activate it. So we are double dipping a little bit with this legend, but the cost and the restrictions should keep it in check. Moving into the body domain, and we have Anivia, a 7 energy unit with 8 might that deals 3 damage to all enemies at a battlefield she attacks. I think this is really solid ability, and it's upsetting that she hasn't really found a deck yet. This is actually basically what she does in Runeterra as well, so it's cool to see that she was remade like this. But when it comes to domains, I think that she's pretty flexible. Fury, Calm, and Mind would be okay for her, but I'm leaning towards Fury, which would be kind of in line with Volibear. As for her actual ability, it's kind of difficult with Anivia. On the one hand, I'd like to do something with her egg, but I'm not sure what. We could also have her work with stunning units, but Fury and Body don't really do that. In LOR, she was all about ramping to 10 mana, but I'm worried at that point that we're just making another Volibear, so I'm a bit stuck. And ultimately, I'm going to lean into her ultimate ability. In League, Anivia can make a giant blizzard that deals damage to anyone who is standing in it, and I think we can represent that with this, Anivia the Cryo Phoenix, a Fury and Body legend that says at the beginning of your turn, each enemy unit in a battlefield takes 1 damage. I don't mind this, but I'm not super happy with it either. On top of that, it's basically a big fuck you to Viktor specifically, and that's probably not okay. I don't know, let me know your thoughts on this one in the comments. What would you do for the Bird Lady? Qiyana is our next champion without a legend, and she might be one of the strongest champions in the game right now. She's a 4 might unit for 4 energy that has deflect, and lets you either draw a card or channel an exhausted rune when she conquers. Currently, she is in body, and I think if we're going to add another, Fury or Chaos would make a lot of sense. But I think there could also be an argument for Mind or Calm as well. I mean, the whole thing with her character is that she's very versatile, so that makes sense, I guess. In League, Qiyana is able to take in the elements around her to get different effects, which is why we see her card giving you the option between either drawing or channeling. Again though, that makes it hard to choose a direction. I don't think there's really any other cards that fit into this category right now, but I would want to make something that takes advantage of modal effects. So here's my idea for Qiyana, Empress of the Elements. I'm putting her in the body and chaos domain and giving her this ability. For the cost of exhausting her and paying 1 energy, if an effect would have you choose between 2 listed options, do both instead. So with her champion card, for example, you would both get to draw a card and channel a rune. Now, I worded it very specifically, saying listed options, to avoid effects that say choose a unit at a battlefield, for example, as that would let you target multiple units through the 1 card. Limiting it to cards with 2 options also avoids letting Udyr pick all 4 of his abilities at once. That said, I believe Qiyana is the only card with this kind of ability so far where you are just choosing between 2 options, so there would need to be a lot of support to have this happen. Another champion that definitely fits that modal theme is Udyr, with all of his different stances. The card we have for him right now lets him spend a buff to perform 1 of 4 actions: deal 2 damage to a unit at a battlefield, stun a unit, ready Udyr, or give him ganking. He is definitely body and fury, which at this point kind of feels like a default for a lot of the body domain, and I'm absolutely going to make this a buff-related legend. So here we have Udyr Spirit Walker, who says, if you've spent a buff during your turn, you can either ready 2 runes at the end of your turn or draw a card. Like Anivia, I'm not super thrilled about this one, but the base card already covers so much of what Udyr does already that it was just difficult to think of something more thematic for him. On to another Beastman, this time with Warwick, a 6 energy unit with 5 might who enters ready and kills all damaged enemy units at a battlefield that he attacks. This card is super cool, but he's kind of the end point of a combo and can't really enable things himself. But you know the drill, body and fury, Warwick Wrath of Zon. This is a legend that says when you kill an enemy unit, deal 1 damage to another enemy unit at a battlefield. I'm hoping this leads into the bloodlust effect that Warwick is known for. Kill one thing and kind of move on to the next target. That said, I can't tell if this is too weak or completely overpowered, so again, gonna need your opinion. That brings us to the Chaos domain and Kayn. Kayn is a bit of an interesting one, as throughout the game in League, he can either maintain control of himself or transform into Rost. So I want to do something very different with this card. Kayn the Shadow Reaper is a Chaos domain legend that lets you choose between 2 forms, or in this case, domains. You can choose Shadow Assassin, building your deck with Chaos and Mind cards, and saying exhaust, ready a unit at a battlefield. Or you can choose Rost, building your deck with Chaos and Fury cards to gain the ability to exhaust and pay 1 power to ready a mighty unit. These feel pretty similar, but I wanted Rost to be more of an Unga Bunga card, while Shadow Assassin moves more freely under the right conditions. On to Kog'Maw, who currently is a 3 energy unit with 1 might that deals 4 damage to all units at the battlefield that he dies at. I love this. It's the classic passive ability that Kog'Maw is known for, but it doesn't show off the other things that Kog'Maw is iconic for. That being that he is a living mortar barrage, and that he is this ever-hungry void munchkin. There are a couple ways to go here. We could have him eat gear for different effects, but I think this might be too similar to Malzahar maybe. So instead, we're going to be working with that long-ranged attack idea. And that brings us to Kog'Maw Mouth of the Abyss, which is a Chaos and Fury legend that says when you kill an enemy unit with a spell or ability, deal 1 damage to a unit in the enemy's base. This promotes using spells to take out your opponent's units and then pinging your back row every time you take something out, but it also works in line with Kog'Maw's original effect, as if you kill 4 units with his death knell, you can deal 4 damage to the back row. For Nocturne, our current card is a 4 energy unit with 4 might and ganking that lets you pay him for 1 power when you see him while looking at cards from the top of your deck. So, Nocturne is a super cool champion. I love the way that he can jump out of the deck to attack like that. It's very in line with his ult in League. However, we don't really have many options to trigger it right now. We have 5 units with Vision, Teemo Strategist, and the Candlelit Battlefield. So let's adjust that with Nocturne Eternal Nightmare. This legend is in the Chaos and Mind domains and has 2 abilities. Firstly, when your units defend, you can trigger Vision. This lets you look at the top card of your deck and choose to either keep it there or recycle it. Second, when your opponent's units defend alone, they will lose 2 might to a minimum of 1. I think this really fits into that darkness and fear vibe that Nocturne brings. When he ults, you don't know what's going to be happening, so your team tries to huddle together to stay safe. And then he jumps onto the one person standing alone. And on top of that, there's always that uncertainty that if you engage, he could ult in and take you out. So I'm really happy with this design. Twisted Fate, though, is a difficult one. This is a 4 energy unit with 4 might that reveals the top card of your deck when he attacks, and then depending on the color of the card, he does one of 3 things. Fury has him deal 2 damage to an enemy unit at that battlefield, then 1 to all others. Mind lets him draw a card, and Order lets him stun an enemy unit. So, a few things here. Firstly, so far the rules seem to be that when it comes to color pairs, opposites can't be put onto a legend. Effectively, Fury and Calm can't be together, Body and Mind can't be together, and Order and Chaos can't be together. Which means Twisted Fate can't proc his yellow card. And that is super unfortunate. Working within that, I think Twisted Fate Cardmaster has to be a Chaos and Mind card. And I basically want him to be the opposite of Nocturne. Once per turn, when you play a spell, you can trigger Vision, looking at and recycling the top card of your deck if you want to. I like this spellcasting idea on him a lot, and it gives him a chance to stack the deck in his favor before going in for the attack. Then, if you choose to recycle, you can pay 1 energy and exhaust him to draw a card. So if you give up the knowledge of what's coming, you can still get some kind of advantage. Now on to the last domain, Order, where we are starting with one of my favorite champions from Legends of Runeterra, Fiora. Her current card is a 4 energy unit with 4 might, but when she is mighty, she gains deflect, ganking, and shield, becoming one of the most versatile cards in the game if she is set up. Fiora's whole thing is that she is a duelist though. She's a 1v1 fighter, so I want to explore that with her legend. Fiora, Grand Duelist, is an Order and Body legend that reads, when a friendly unit attacks alone, ready them and give them 2 might until the end of that combat. This could be super strong, as if it's Fiora attacking, she can move on to a battlefield for a fight while readying herself, so that if she survives, she can gank onto the other one. But it forces you to fight with 1 unit at a time, so I'm hoping that kind of balances things out a bit. Obviously, units with ganking become bonkers here, but otherwise, they are conquering, then returning to their base. Karma is a 6 energy, 6 might unit with Vision that lets you buff a friendly unit whenever you recycle 1 or more cards. I'm okay with this, but I definitely think Karma should be the Vision legend, and I think Mind is the easy go-to here. So we have Karma, Enlightened One. Whenever you activate Vision, you may look at 1 extra card. You can also exhaust her and spend a buff to activate Vision, and it's just going to be a simple and great way of curating your deck. That brings us to Karthus, a card I am certain will be busted one day. Karthus is a 3 energy unit with 3 might that causes your death knell effects to trigger an additional time. Notably, an additional time, not twice, so this does stack. Obviously, we are working with a legend that needs to revolve around death knell, and for domains, it's between Mind or Chaos. And since we apparently don't do Chaos and Order, we're gonna go Mind. Karthus Death Stinger says when you trigger a death knell effect, you can either pay 2 energy to draw a card, or pay 2 power to return a Death Rattle unit from your trash to the battlefield, which costs less than the unit who died. This is basically a card that says, I will let you sell your soul to build advantage, and it's going to be all about managing your energy and power while trying not to leave yourself with nothing. It could be very strong, but I think you could also screw yourself over if you're not paying attention. And that leaves us with our final champion, Shen. Shen is a 3 energy, 3 might unit with reaction, shield 2, and tank. The ultimate defensive card that is so fun to use. I love the whole unit with reaction thing, and I really want to lean into that protection aspect. And so we have Shen, Eye of Twilight in the Order and Calm domains, who reads, your units with tank have shield and reaction. This lets you play a bunch of large lads on your opponent's turn to keep your own unit safe. I think this would be super fun to run in a deck around Caitlyn patrolling as a kind of defend the castle style of build. But there you have it, all 24 of our champions who don't have legend cards, and how I would give them legends to fill that role. Let me know your thoughts on these, or if you have ideas that are completely in different directions that they could go in. Are there any that you liked in particular? For me, I think the Shen and Sona decks would be the top of my list, but I'm curious what you think. If you enjoyed, remember to leave a like and subscribe to support the channel. You can check out my Patreon or Discord links in the description to play games, talk about deck building, or give input on future videos. But with that all being said, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.